Hello, good morning, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you here and to our online audience that is joining us today for this session, iiRDS latest developments. My name is Suzanne. I'm the iiRDS project manager at TECOM, and I'm very happy to introduce today with you the recent developments and achievements and highlights of this year, what we have achieved, for example, the new iiRDS version 1.2 that was released last week, and you get also some insights on what we've done and what we are planning for the next year. So I would like to introduce the speakers of today's session that will be introducing the that will be introducing the projects. First, Anne Kusen, our steering committee coordinator, will give you an overview of the roadmap this year and what we've got in the pipeline for next year. Then Harald Stadelbauer, our convener of the working group development, will introduce the new version 1.2. Achim Steinecker, the convener of the working group tools, validation and content, will give you an insight of our projects that we are developing, for example, the request part that is in planning, and also our compatibility with data that we want to improve. And last but not least, Michael Fritz, our convener of the working group standards, will give you some updates on the steps that we have made towards international standardization, the publication of the PAS, an IEC document that is referencing iiRDS in standardization. So without further ado, I'd like to ask Anne to the stage to give you an overview of the roadmap. Thank you. Enjoy. Oh, before I forget, if you have any questions, the questions will be towards the end of the session. You're very welcome to ask questions. And of course, our online audience, feel free to add the questions to the chat and we'll go through them afterwards. Thank you.
So, Susanne, thank you for the introduction. I'm sorry. I'm very pleased to see so many interested faces. So thank you for your coming. And as I only have a few minutes, I will now hurry up to start and present you our roadmap. And let's start with the overview of the roadmap 2023. First, we look at the working groups, tools, validation, and content. And there, the validation tool with which you can check whether your iiRDS packages are valid is freely accessible, for example, on our website, and it is also involved in the online training for iiRDS. And then the requirements of an open, then the requirements of an Open Toolkit Pro and a certification of packages will still be defined, but there are many ideas. For example, a possible function for a pro version of the Open Toolkit could be the transformation from iiRDS into an asset administration shell format. So, and then for the data compatibility, we've got the data plugin tender, and it has been commissioned and will be implemented, and the working group will coordinate this task. And in addition, the coordination of the implementation of the developing of the request part was also handed over to this working group. And Achim Steinecker will give you more details of the activities in the next few minutes. So let's turn over to the working group development. The two very extensive topics, the style guide and the terminology, and the new releases have been completed. And in addition, the request part tender was created by the sub-working group or task force request, and as I said before, is already commissioned. And Harald Stadelbauer will give us even more information on the topics of the working group directly after the presentation of the roadmap. So now let's take a look at the working group standards. A number of topics were completed. For example, the publicly available specification was published, and some projects for Industry 4.0 were carried out. Michael Fritz will explain more detailed information and what further steps are now being taken in the next few minutes. And last but not least, the office deals with the organization of the online training and the pilot projects. The online training took place in June, and 3 pilot projects were funded and implemented this year. And one more task is the cooperation with universities and activities to increase the number of consortium members. So, for example, in presentations, many meetings and conversation with the related parties. And many marketing activities have been taken place, such as webinars, social media posts, newsletters, technical publications in trade journals, etc. And not to forget, we have redesigned our website. So take a look. And that was a brief summary of the topics and projects of 2023. Now let's take a look at what we have planned for the next year before I hand over to my colleagues. So as I said before, the tenders for the detail plugin and for the request part will be implemented in the next month. And in addition, there will again be calls for tenders for the online training and for funded pilot projects next year. Also next year, we want to continue the cooperation with various consortia and become more involved in other initiatives relating to smart standards and ontologies. And we also want to take further steps towards international standardization and Industry 4.0 projects. And we will continue to drive forward our marketing activities to make the standard even better known. For example, a white paper that shows the added values of a combined use of iiRDS and AI, large language models, and so on. And I can only recommend it to you. Become a part of the consortium so that we can further advance the standard together. And don't be afraid if you may not yet be an expert. You can learn from us and with us. So join us. Thank you.
Hello and welcome. My name is Harald Stadelbauer. I'm the convener of the working group development. I took over the role from Mark Schubert, who really did a lot of work in that respect. The working group development should care for, first of all, bug fixing, as well as further development of the iiRDS versions. If you take a look, these are the experts, and I'm happy to be able to say that it's a very contributing, very active working group driving the development of iiRDS further in big steps, actually. So everybody who wants to join in, feel welcome to be able to position your ideas within this working group. One of the major achievements this year is that Fast-in-Time Release 1.2 was published and is ready. You can see here where you can get it from the iiRDS.org portal or from GitHub. Now, originally, if you take a look into the internal repository. It's still mentioned as release 1.1.1. Actually, we discovered that we have such a big leap made possible that it was turned into release 1.2. What are the major achievements now of this release? First of all, the link to external classifications. I think a lot of you is able of getting to know or experiencing eClass. eClass is an external classification, not compatible with any RDF schemes usually, and relying mainly on a centrally registered iiRDS scheme as identifier. Now, we made it possible in cooperation with the eClass Consortium to create links to that external classification, and not only to eClass, but any other comparable kind of external classification, like the Common Data Dictionary, the CDD. The second point was a kind of harmonization, a very difficult word, of terminology concerning the IEC IEEE EN 82079 for the English kinds of terms, as well as the DIN IEC IEEE EN 82079 for the German ones. This was done and released as a separate SCOS scheme, which you can merge with the core scheme of iiRDS. And I will come to that later on, because then you have, in addition, a SCOS labeling too. And then minor issues fixed. You can take a look on the portal in the release notes, where you see which kind of fixes were done. Now, Martin told me that nobody can read this diagram, actually. This is the new diagram of the iiRDS version 1.2. In a minute, you will get a detailed look at it, where you have this link to external classifications, which might be assigned to information objects. This is dealing with the information world, information units, but on a product scheme related view on the product variants, product features, and components. So it's up to you, and it's up to the classification scheme you have in the external classification, how granular you want to be. Typically, external classifications, as I told you, are used to include metadata from other standards, and these classes are intended to really get a link to non-RDF schemes. Now, I promised you a larger view, and that's it. And here you see on the top left corner the new classes in the iiRDS scheme, with the classification type, the classification domain, where I can say classification domains, for example, the eClass domain, as well as then the direct external classification identifiers. As I told already, it's not only meant to integrate eClass identities, but also CDD, DCC, or for information topics, the VDI 2770. Now let's take a look. I have taken 3 examples out of the specification. First of all, on this example, you see actually, let's take a look whether this is working with the pointer. Doesn't. Where you see at the external classification that you have an iiRDS here in that case from eClass at the classification identifier, linking up to the iiRDS of eClass and connecting that to it. You have, in addition, has classification domain, the eClass reference to the iiRDS. The next example is actually linking up with party information. That is, you have a supplier which is registered on eClass. You want to connect to that information. That's what the next example is showing, where you have actually the link again to the classification domain of eClass iiRDS, and then you are relating that to the respective party information there. And last but not least, a very interesting example. I find it quite interesting because here you are going directly linking up product features, like, for example, the net weight of your supplied modules. In this example, you see, and this is becoming more and more important concerning all these discussions about carbon footprint and things like that. Here you can access the information from the E-class, for example, E-class domain, to get the net weight in that example, but you can link up to carbon footprint and any other kind of product features in that respect and make them retrievable and accessible. What has been done in the harmonization of the iiRDS terminology? All these definitions and descriptions were harmonized with the terms of 82079. I spare this IEEE IEC thing actually for a moment. This is how it looks like. Yeah. So what you gain in addition, that is delivered as a SCOS labeling scheme, that you get all the things you usually have in SCOS for all your terminology work, like preferred label, alternative label, hidden label, which you can use for intelligent retrieval of information via an intelligent search scheme. And it's not only a harmonization, but a SCOS labeling too. And what we have to address here, that it doesn't mirror the SCOS structure in the scheme, like narrow concept, product concept, etc. So you are not able to integrate it fully into other than an ontology in a SCOS system, but you get the advantage of the different types of labeling and terminology. The SCOS structure is subject of further investigations and work. This ends my presentation here. Many thanks. May I hand over to Achim Steinacker of the Working Group Tools.
Thank you, Harald, and good morning. Short introduction, short overview, what we have been achieved this year. Also not too big, but very active working group for the tools we want to provide for the work with iiRDS. And also we, as Anne mentioned, we had some priorities for 2023. And besides thinking about a pro version of the iiRDS toolkit, we all knew we had a problem from the beginning, because the standard is called Intelligent Information Request and Delivery Standard. And we were dealing with metadata and package formats and delivery, but we haven't thought about a real request API, techniques and methods to request for packages. And as you can see, more and more business use cases demand an interface to issue a request, and that's why on the right side you can't see a user anymore, but now it's you only are dealing with touch points, which might be a user, but which can also be systems that just want to request for packages. And that's why a tender for request API was published, mainly from a special task force from Harald. And it was published on May this year. We unfortunately just received one offer by Empeles and ICMS. And also, unfortunately, we had some budget problems with this offer for the tender, so we decided to split it in two parts. Because of the budget restrictions, the offer was accepted on September, and Martin, my colleague Martin, promised me he will start right after the Jahrestagung. So once he will leave the conference today. He will start working on the tender. And the first part will be just a specification of what a system able to deliver iiRDS packages should fulfill. There was a lot of discussion because as iiRDS is a more or less semantic web standard, we were discussing about those semantic web query languages like Sparkle or probably Cypher or Open or GraphQL. But we decided not to specify a concrete language, just to specify a set of services and request formats and response formats. So the second part of the tender will be at least a static mockup API. So vendors and people interested in playing around with the API are at least able to have something to test against. And I hope we will also find a concrete customer project where we can really implement it in 2024. Probably with some support from the consortia, but so we cannot only present a static API next year, but also one that is actually in work. And as providing tools is the main goal of the working group, we also decided to specify another tender, also mentioned by Anne, the iiRDS plugin for the DITA Open Toolkit, because as DITA is widely used outside of Germany and especially in North America, and we want to distribute the standard and the usage of the standard to other countries, the consortia decided to publish a tender for the DITA Open Toolkit. So DITA files, DITA documentation can automatically be transformed to valid iiRDS packages. Again, one tender by Empelis and Parson. Also has had to be split in 2 phases because of budget restrictions. And we had a lot of discussions about how to split those phases. But the main task was whatever we are doing, there should be something up and running as soon as possible. Probably not the latest tricks in metadata mapping, probably not the full usage of the possibilities to express semantic relations in iiRDS. But right from the beginning, there should be a version which is able to produce valid iiRDS packages out of DITA files. We are in the last steps of negotiation of the offer. And oh, you already signed it? Okay, yeah, we are done. We can start. And also it will be, we have a planned implementation phase of 6 months. And as always, we will organize it like a Scrum, like an agile development project, so with regular sprints and reviews. And so if you're interested in the DITA Open Toolkit plugin, if you're interested in the request API, just feel free to join us. We will have a lot of discussion. Everyone is invited to discuss what he or she thinks this implementation should include. And as an outlook to 2024, I think as those tenders, as those implementations just started, we will have a lot of work to do in 2024. And if we do not have any work left, I think we will probably play around with what Anne also mentioned, that the consortia will want to publish a white paper, want to talk about experiences with the usage of Gen AI and iiRDS. And I think we already have really good examples which show the usage of iiRDS in those scenarios. And probably we can also have a look at this in 2024. That's it. Martin. Michael, sorry.
Hello, my name is Michael Fritz. I'm the convener of the working group standards. I think I gave a little of an introduction last year already on the topic of standardization in our field. What is very important is to make the distinction between standard and international standard. In German language, it's easier between standard and norm. iiRDS is a standard created by a consortium, but it's not an international standard yet. But international standardization was a big goal for us because many companies require that the technologies with which they work are standardized. That applies also to a data model like iiRDS. And there are lots of initiatives like Industry 4.0 that require standardized metadata. And therefore, we always tried to find out how we can standardize officially iiRDS on international level. The first step which we decided to take was a so-called PAS, publicly available specification, which is a paper, a document, which is the first step to an international standard. This is a new roadmap or a new opportunity that was created by the international standardization bodies, and we tried to use that. It took a long time, I have to admit, but we are really happy that since this year we have this PAS and it's already published, as you can see on the link on the IEC website. The IEC is the International Electrotechnical Standardization Organization. And the PAS does something what we haven't done at the beginning because we were very pragmatic. We developed our ontology and the metadata system and everything from a point of view of practitioners and so on. But now we are kind of laying a more theoretical ground for requirements that have to be made for intelligent information, as we call it. And in the past, we have described such requirements. A very important point is our information flow model, which is a part of the standard. And we have annexes with lots of examples. There's also VDI 27770, and it's one example. And we have up to now as a non-normative annex, a long list of descriptions of metadata from the iiRDS model. This is the state of the art. And what we are doing now, the working group, which has worked on the PAS, was working group 28. I was the convener. Working group 28 has now an assignment, a new assignment to maintain the PAS and develop it further. And one of the partners who we are talking with is the DDCC, Digital Data Chain Consortium. This is an industry consortium that was, let's say, pushed by the group of companies that also created VDI 27770. We have talked about that a lot. And this consortium now combines or represents an initiative of a data flow model, a little bit like the one we have in our PAS, beginning with the link for identification of a product and the requirements of VDI 270 and so on, and the platform for delivery of information products. we are already talking with them, and that's, I think, very important for many of our members, because there was always a little bit of an irritation. What shall we use? Shall we use iiRDS or shall we use VDI 270? And what we are doing now, we had a first workshop together with representatives from DDC. We are trying to find a consensus how to merge the two requirements. And this will be done hopefully in the next 1-2 years when we prepare a paper that we will submit to the IEC again, which is called then a new work item proposal for standardization. The compromise, from my point of view, how we can merge the two approaches would be that we offer two options in the future standards. Like if you want to deliver documents, PDF documents, and this would then refer to the requirements of VDI 270, do it like this. But when you want to do dynamic information, intelligent information, and so on, that would point to the requirements of iiRDS. This we have discussed already, and we are very positive now that we can reach that goal together. Another cooperation partner in the last years was eClass. We had lots of meetings in a sub-working group with eClass, and what we from our side, from the iiRDS consortium side, what we reached is this pointer which we created in iiRDS, which Harald already introduced to you, so that we can point to eClass classification from iiRDS. This is what we did on our side. And what's going on now on the side of the eClass consortium itself is that they have a sub-working group where our Markus Hoffmann is working and other people to define ways in which you can point from eClass to iiRDS and integrate iiRDS labeling, so to say, in eClass. Another important activity in the field of standardization is Industry 4.0. And what's going on in Germany at the moment is Interopera. This is a project which is managed by Steinbeiß Sender, and it aims at defining submodels in the administration shell of Industry 4.0. And this was already closed in 2023 in June. The first project was on intelligent information for use. And they called it iiRDS handover documentation. That was really a little strange. The name was defined by the project managers. They didn't ask us. We found it not so good, but we could manage to rename it intelligent information for use now. So this was our sub-working group, but there was a second one which was also important for us, and we were represented there by Ulrike Parson on digital data standard sheets. This is more about a meta system of ontologies where we can refer to, and they worked on ways how we can do that. And the organization that is behind it is IDTA. That's the Digital Twin Association. Okay, then another very interesting aspect of standardization is standardization itself. We are in very close cooperation with the DKE, Deutsche Kommission für Elektrotechnik, which is the electrotechnical standardization organization in Germany. And we had an ambassador in a project called iiRDS, that deals with the delivery of standards information in environments like the digital twin. And these pilots were conducted in 2022. I think that we have some other presentations today that will be dealing with the two aspects. Yeah, the further development of the standard was discussed. We hope that we can establish that these goals in 2024. I have to speed up a little bit. And another and last activity is we are members in IOF now, which is the Industrial Ontology Foundation that's dealing with ontologies for all industry sectors which are relevant. And iiRDS should also be part of it. Okay, so far, thank you very much for listening. And I think we have a discussion round now where you can ask your questions. Thank you very much for listening. Bleiben wir oben.
Thank you very much, everyone, for the insights into what was happening this year with iiRDS. I would like to open the floor now for questions. And just as a pointer, Michael already mentioned there will be later on presentations on the iiRDS submodel in German. So for all the German speakers that are interested in the Interopera project, what happened there on intelligent information for use, there will be a presentation with Plus Meta, who was managing this Interopera project later on today in this room at 2 o'clock, I think. But we have lots more in store in the following sessions. But first of all, are there any questions from the audience here? Yes, please.
Good morning. Thank you for the presentation. I'm quite new to iiRDS, so for me, maybe the question might is not relevant, but let's ask it. Yeah, I'm from Accenture. What we often do is little hackathons, small MVPs, 1 to 2 weeks. And what I see here are all 6 months, longer developments. Did you also consider those kind of small innovation accelerators, or are you planning to do so? I think it's more in the tools corner, maybe.
Not at the moment, but quite a good idea, especially probably for this Gen AI hype and metadata, because as you might have recognized, it's an important topic here on the TCOM, and many vendors are working on solutions and are playing around. And why not organize something like a hackathon just for a few days, for a few weeks, where we will bring all those people together working for solutions and just share our experience. Yeah, good idea. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm not speaking as a vendor, but we are often working on innovation, and then it really works very well. Thank you.
Are there any more questions from the audience here? I don't see. Let me just check if there are any questions from the online audience. There are no questions from the online audience at the moment. So we have some time left if you have any questions.
Maybe also in German language if you want. We can switch.
So otherwise, if there are no more questions, you have my contact details here. And if there are any technical questions that you have, I'm more than happy to convey them to our conveners. Or if there are some general questions about the membership or how we are organized, feel free to get in touch with me. And if for all the German speakers, as I said, we have lots of more sessions on iiRDS in store, like at 10 o'clock now. Achim and Martin will lift some misconceptions that are around iiRDS and yeah, just educate a little bit more on what iiRDS is about. and now at 10 o'clock, and then we have a use case at 11:30, also in German language. So stay tuned if you want to learn more about iiRDS. Otherwise, I hope you have a nice conference. Thank you for attending, and enjoy your stay. Thank you.